There we are.
Beep boop beep.
Beep boop, beep boop.
For satellite connection from
Yeah.
Zanzibar 4.
Gabriel, are we all tech savvy now? Or are we recording from both ends?
I see this thing and it says it's recording, but I've got
That's
this deep
beautiful.
mistrust of all technology, so
Yeah.
hope
Same
for the
here.
best. Say a little prayer to the techno gods or whatever.
I know it feels like everything's going wrong, at least for us today. We got our sink leaking, our sink clogged, our dishwasher flowing over.
Yeah.
Wow. Huh.
Not
Interesting.
fun. Not fun. Basically, yeah, we can't do dishes or like it's really fucked up when your sink is clogged up and you can't run the water.
Oh, it is.
So,
You know
yeah.
what? I've got 100 foot long snake because I know I don't mess around with clogged snake. You know, like you can get a handheld one or there's different levels of them. Some 20 feet long,
Huh.
but you got to get in there and auger that bad boy out, especially if you don't have a disposer. And even then, you'll have people from upstairs if you're in like a. What I hear you. But if there's something clogged like that, and what else is going on? Do tell.
I think we tried to make sourdough, and it's like our sink's like, no, you're throwing cement down the drain.
I don't know
Yeah.
what these girls are up to, man. Like they're fucking doing weird projects in the kitchen all the time. You know, we're in quarantine, they're painting my nails. They're like starting to look at me as a project, I think, you know.
Oh,
So,
believe that. You just now are. You don't know what they have queued up because you're right in it,
no.
man. You know,
No.
it is like, ooh, if you see them starting to do this noise, yeah, it's beautiful, man. They'll have
Gab-
you right.
Gabriel, thank you for this righteous herb,
The flower,
Yeah.
the
solstice.
flower.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is some
Solstice.
charged up stuff.
Do you dig it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I felt that. Is that's
Yeah.
it, huh?
It definitely hits really different and hard. I'm
Does
used to
it?
just smoking one strain for months at a time. We never switch it up. And then when I get a new one going, and I know your fucking stuff is crazy, and I
Yeah,
think it's a sativa, so
it
I'm just
helps,
trying to
huh?
groove here, you know? But I'm a
I love
little
what you guys have
spaced.
done with it, though.
Yeah, yeah.
I felt like a completing of the circle after talking to you last week and you sending it and being like, all right, well now he's about to get in here and do some work with his
Mm.
magic flowers that he so cared for.
Yeah. What's
Yeah, I'm just
cannabis,
glad
man?
it made it to you guys because it sat there in the distribution center for like a minute, you
Oh
know, and
no.
and that's why I wrote all these love notes on the box. I was like, how many times do I have to write love on this box?
For it to make it. Yeah, we saw that
Yeah, for
box and we
it
were like, oh, I don't know if he
to
should have done that. That makes it look so
You know
suspicious.
what? And I thought that too, but I was like, oh yeah, lovely, man. Yeah, and I keep it on the sticks because it needs to sit and cure for another week or two, but it cured for 9 days. It's all about the cure when it comes to artisan cannabis. That
Mm.
stuff, I mean, it's been a joy to work with it and to bring that strain all the way back from Washington State and have the dispensary guy be like, look, you don't want these seeds. This is hard to grow and you don't get any weight from it. I was like, no, you don't get it. Like if real sativa's got like I'll be sitting there at my computer like in like literary magic Edgar Allan Poe tragedy elven world, you know? And I brought it back and then I got that strain to take hold, right? I got the seeds to plant and then something happened and I had to rip all the plants up, right? For
Mm.
whatever reason without getting into it. And then there was pollen in my grow room and then I replanted one of the seeds and then somehow some way it came back again, right? So it's like
Mm.
that's where the name came from, you know. So
What's it called?
but I do the solstice.
Solstice.
But that if in the regular world that is a ghost train haze and fruity pebbles,
Mm.
those two sativa strains together, and it's got some purple in it too.
Fruity
But I like the
Pebbles.
way compared to I can tell by what you're used to that indica strain, like that stuff will have you right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
Like let's
Definitely.
do stuff.
Oh man, Sean played some music and we were listening on headphones the other night and I literally saw you floating around as a with your head, just your head on like butterflies and you were like doing shit in my system. You were like a little butterfly and you're like oh da 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 oh da 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 oh da 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 da.
Oh, you saw that?
Yeah, I saw it. I
Yeah.
saw it. But
She was on a little
Cool.
ketamine, and you know, Cass never really calls for weed. Like she'll take it if it's around, but like especially during the quarantine, Cass has been like really good about not smoking. But that night, I don't know. Like, this was last night. you were like, let's like pack me up a bong of Gabriel's stuff, and I packed it up, and Cass was hitting that thing, and I was like, all right. And then the next thing you know, she's like, I'm seeing Gabriel's face on a butterfly, and there's a lot of them, and they're flying all over the place.
Yeah, that's the realm. That's part of the realm I
Ooh.
crafted as I work with the spirit of that plant and with the spirit of cannabis herself, because most people use it for like escapism, right? Or they'll have some pattern of like dependency on it, and so the whole morphic field around the plant had weirdness around it. And I worked through a lot of my stuff with her for a while when I went through some really gnarly processing, and so I just would go in there and just work with what I felt around the plant and the crystals and the silica in it and the actual underpinning of what it was. And then it ended up turning into like a whole realm. And then the fairies got involved. And then it started, that's why you're seeing with all the butterflies and stuff in it, you know? And so a few times that I've worked with it, when I smoke it, like it gets, I'll have to go out and run around and walk, and like it gets real for me when I use it, you know? So it just depends on where I am, but it's like for everyone else, it's like you'll have your moment where you're like, yeah, let's do this thing, you know? If you, especially if you're going to go draw or do art, as opposed to like, you know, indica right into the couch.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
What's the realm all about? Like, what's it like? I feel like I'm visiting it the past couple days.
Well, you guys are adding into it, and
Yeah.
that's why I'm like sending it to you guys, because I sent it out to a friend of mine, and she's all very Polish and upside down on a lot of stuff, and I kept feeling her dragging down this emotional weirdness into it. And then I had this moment where I was like, oh my god, it's, you know, it like it's magic, it's what you put into it, you know. So that's why I was like, well, let's send it out, your guys' ways and see what you did with it, you know. So I just have to,
We've
I'll
been
have to keep
honoring
it
it for
coming.
sure.
Yeah,
I
like,
can tell, I feel the love, man. She
oh
told me.
yeah. And we have Ganesha watching over it,
Wait,
definitely here, and then Mother Mary, this little statue that we got of Mother Mary. When my dad's aunt was dying, and like we were clearing out her house, and like she had all kinds of fucking dumb shit like from back in the 60s. And I just grabbed this at the last second. This is so fucking awesome. I don't know why.
I like her.
Yeah, I don't really know what she's all about, but I dig her.
I dig her.
I met someone reached out to me from the podcast, and unbeknownst to her, whether she knows it or not, she embodies like the female aspect of that Yeshua consciousness, which is what Mary really wore in
Mm.
this beautiful like Irish bloodline.
Mm.
And
Whoa.
it was really intense because I have different gradations in my transmission depending upon how I show up, and you know, like, well, what I feel like somebody needs. And I don't know if she knew what she was signing up for, and she
Mm.
kept threatening to be my friend, and I was like, well, you should know what you're getting into there, you know, like that's real for me, you know, like I go hard for people, you know. So, and you guys are there now, you
Yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean?
we know.
I'm like, y'all are getting the dark chocolate with the black salt in it. That's my favorite. They don't sell that shit anymore.
Wow, man.
That is magic.
Such a beautiful care package. It's so funny, right before we got on, we were just talking about what you just mentioned, like working with you, even being friends with you. It's like, it's very psychedelic in itself. I know I'm usually on something when I'm around you, but like there's also something additional going on because we're communicating all the fucking time. But
Yeah.
you have to
Well,
let go. You have to let go of your preconceived notions about what you thought healing was and what you thought this plane of reality was all about.
do that a lot with people of where you have the mental complex, and where most people are taking in things and they're thinking about things, and there's this linearity to the way that they're perceiving what they know based upon their fundamental beliefs, and then the labels and the ideology and how that forms how they shape their reality. And a lot of what I will do with people is like, okay, let's get that calm down and come to the still point, come to the center, like come to where the soul seats, because from that point of soul here in the core in the middle, then there's a lot more information to take in from the plane of the heart, where your intuition and your knowing, and it's very much how it was in Lemurian times as opposed to like the mental complex time.
Mm.
So a lot of it has to do with, okay, like what's going on here, what am I seeing with these two eyes, and then how can I calm down what you're picking up here in this eye, because there's an eye in there, there's an eye in your heart that sees truth always. And then I had someone ask me that about well, how do I know that things are legit, you know? Because we're 4 days in, she just met me, and I'm like going full on because I'm like, this is what you signed up for. You know, and I could tell she's kind of like, hey, what's going on? And you know me, I don't hesitate to go with the magic because that's what's really down there. After your spiritual journey, whatever God is for you, and then all these creatures that have been hiding from the ridiculous humans that would put them on their barbecue and or their hamburgers because they're running out of meat, Sean. You see that? Wendy's is like, we're out of meat. And I'm like, yeah, for the, yeah, I know, right? Real talk, you know? So, yeah, it's a big part of it is there's so much people are taking in. And with the psychedelics, it'll put you into that. Right? It'll put you into that
that's
space.
how we became plant-based. We didn't even
Oh, really?
consider it. But then we took mushrooms very much on a whim. The first time we ever took mushrooms, this was 6-7 years ago. And right away I was like, yo, we can't eat fucking meat anymore.
You wanted to like extricate yourself from the system.
Yeah, I wanted to like I felt that like I was like I was part of my environment. I wasn't separate from it when I was on these mushrooms. So I wanted to live more in line with my environment, and that meant curbing some of my consumption habits. But the very clear download was like, if you think of yourself as an environmentalist, stop eating your friends, man. So it started with that.
Why can't I please explain that to me, man? And I mean, and I went through eating. I could go because I used to be able to go and eat like 80 ounces of prime rib.
Me too.
I'm tall and I've got a lot of, you know, I could put it down, but then whatever I went through or whatever, you're not the first person I've heard that took shrooms and was like, I can't eat meat anymore.
Really?
I think one of the members of the Wu-Tang Clan, the rapper, had a similar experience with a psychedelic. Yeah. And he got into a gradient where once you pop, there's a very narrow bandwidth that people live in, and it's all death energy, right? Sports, wrestling, boardroom, divorce, third marriage, second divorce, you know, everywhere you go, McDonald's, the sexuality is in everything. And I don't get it. And I'll have beings show up, and you don't have to believe in this part, and that's up to you, but if you don't,
believe in everything else though.
they'll want me to explain to them like McDonald's and why we would eat things that harm us at a fundamental level. They're like, why would you take in this much salt and you don't know what's in the bread? And how do you know? They say beef, but do they say it's from a cow?
Oh, God.
Right.
Do they say that?
Yeah.
Think about it for a minute, right? And then what my guys were telling me, they were like, do you know the corporation that makes the wax they spray on your produce?
Ooh.
The organic stuff. And I was like, no, I don't. They're like, yeah, think about that for a minute. Yeah. If you were the bad guy, and wouldn't you just spray shit wax all over all the produce because you rule the world? And I was like, you guys, like, you need to space this shit out when you keep hitting me with these, you know, like I need 4 days to process and cry and emote. But that's my point, right? And if you're ever wondering why, you know, the cool little dude who can show you straight up fucking magic with a little sonic screwdriver to fix all your afflictions doesn't show up in your living room, chances are they don't, at a fundamental basic primal level, like we can't even seem to get past eating death.
Yeah, so basically, you know? You're not tuned in to the frequency you'd need to be tuned into to even see that guy.
Yeah, it's a function of victimization too. In a consistent gradient of being the victim or being in victimization. And a lot of people are like, life is hard, and everything that's available when you go out. I mean, how many vegan places can you drive through and get a proper organic wrap that's not $15? You know, zero, man. Yeah. You know, there's pizza dives and there's everywhere else, and you ask them for a list of ingredients and where it came from. No one posts that. You have to go to like an artisan place, like where Daniel was working out, or like where I took you guys down at Bluegrass Kitchen or down at Pies and Pines.
Yeah,
like,
that was
they're
really
legit
good.
Down there. You pay a massive premium for it, and then people in like Chicago or Michigan, or the majority of people live in food deserts where they can't get real produce.
Yeah.
And even then, the water that they use from the reservoirs, which is running out for all the corn and all the soybeans, like you don't know what's in the water either. So, you know, my thing is like going forward, and I'm already seeing it happening where everyone's freaking out, like, oh, you have to pay a premium for meat, and what are we going to do? And I'm like, well, have you considered maybe eating a freaking bean burger with avocado and dried tomatoes and like sauteed onions on it?
Damn,
you know,
dude.
like that, right?
You're making us hungry.
You know? No, yeah, in my head, I'll do that sometimes. I'll be like, ooh, I can make a flaxseed bun, and I'll just saute these onions up real slow and some red pepper, and then we'll just hit it hard, we'll just do this thing.
Oh my God, you
But
should have seen the eggplant parmesan. Vegan, all vegan. Kerry made
oh wow.
pasta, eggplant parmesan, and garlic bread from scratch. Like, we just were like, what
Oh yeah.
the fuck? All
Yeah.
vegan, dope, dope, dope.
Yeah, you let a Libra run wild and free and not have to worry about doing the dishes and shit, like you're in for a treat, man. And I could see it all around her. Hopefully I'll get to experience this one day, man.
Oh
You
yeah,
Oh
know?
yeah.
yeah, totally. We'll bring her down there. Off this thing, we have some good news that we'll talk about the thing we want to do together. But
Okay.
we're feeling good about that. So
Yeah, yeah, man.
But
Because it's starting to clear, I guess, in some areas. I mean,
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, I'm feeling a lot clearing out. You've been doing
But
some.
but help me understand though, for real, why I don't get why people, because there are so many academic hardcore science evidentiary claims around what consuming that degree of protein and getting iron and heme from animal sources does to the human body. I don't understand how anybody, even with an IQ of 43, can't get like what all that iron and what that excess protein and fat does to your epithelial cells,
Are people
to
trying
the
to kill
chemical
themselves?
substructure.
Is it like a
Well,
slow
okay.
death? Like, are we people like that's when I don't give a shit. I drink more alcohol, when I'm feeling like a little more nihilistic.
yeah, I don't drink alcohol no matter what.
But if I'm not having like, there is like a
The
part of it,
fuck
like
it
fuck it
attitude, yeah.
attitude. And that's when I think of
People
y-
do that with their diets.
people do that to their own bodies. So why wouldn't they do that to the earth?
I was crying about this earlier today on the phone with a guy who had something serious happened. Someone stole his work truck randomly like 3 days after we worked, and I was like, okay, dude, like, what are you gonna do now?
Mm,
Just let
Mm,
it all go, man, and pick up your purpose. And he was like, that's real. But that's what came up is the two most dangerous things that I think are out there right now is fuck it and I don't care.
right.
yeah.
Because if you can really find out where someone has all of that, then you can find out the basis for what they're going to do once they experience that. Because when you embody those energies, that allows you to turn someone into, like, for a doctor, it's a patient, not a person with a name. So if that patient dies, they're not accountable and they don't have to mourn the loss of that life, right? So
Mm,
that's a version of like I don't care, and like fuck it, right? And like, oh fuck it, I'll whatever with this or whatever with that, and I don't care about we're bombing these people over here in Beirut or whatever we do with drones that we're not told about, but we get hit with the karma living in America and paying taxes. If you got that $1,200 check and you went out and spent it, there's blood on that money. Give that shit away.
Oh yeah.
mm.
Buy food with it and give it to the people that really need it. You know what I mean? Give it to your landlord. Let him deal with the curse on that money.
It is cursed.
Yes,
It
it
is very
is,
much cursed. All our money
for
here
sure.
is. All the money here is
Yeah,
cursed. Especially
you're
our
right.
tax dollars. Jesus Christ. It goes to fund,
Mm-hmm.
like they say 60% or more of our tax dollars fund the military.
Yep.
And what's the military really doing? It's like we these are things we don't think about because we've allowed media narratives to hypnotize us into otherizing these people that we bomb. But if we did what we did for them, what we do for the 9/11 victims and read their fucking names on the anniversaries, if we did that for the coronavirus people, I don't think
Yeah.
we'd be so flippantly trying to reopen the economy. If that's all you
Um,
were seeing was bodies and coffins and names and
I have a
people's
list of
families.
like, I have a list of young men and boys between the ages of 9 and 15 that came out publicly as gay to their classmates, and then within a week's period of time went home and committed suicide because they
Mm,
were so heavily bullied.
Damn.
And no one ever talks about it. You don't see their name on the national news,
Yeah.
mm.
right? And
Fuck.
then and then people getting, so I saw someone got shot dead for not wearing a mask or whatever in the streets. It's mayhem. So
Hmm.
there's a recognition. I bring that up because I have to talk about it because it burdens my soul,
Yeah.
because no one talks about it. And I just happen to know someone who brings it up and who really cares a lot and works in that field of energy. Like, what do you do when you go and embrace who you really are? And then you step forward in the world and you get met with like troll trauma and judgment and the haves and have nots, and you don't have the tool sets to handle it. You don't have a thick skin. You either develop a thick skin of not, I don't care and fuck it. And within that victimization complex, because everyone's learned to pattern life and money and the negative ego around that. Because
Yeah.
then instead of giving more than you get, you just are like, what do I need to do for me? What can I do to have what, like you grab and you pull it in and you hold it tight for fear of death or someone coming to like take it from you. Natural, deeper biological complexes that we developed evolutionarily wise to protect our tribe or our partner or our food source or our lands. So and I'm glad to talk about it because it's gnarly, and I'm like, what do we got to do?
Well, I mean, it's the same thing with like, we don't talk about it often, but it's the same thing with being plant-based and stopping eating and consuming animals is like, it just weighs heavily on us, especially when you extricate yourself from that madness for a while and you see how loose everyone is about it. Like it does, we don't want to be those people that are fucking up in people's shit, but like it does weigh heavy, It like
Yeah.
when people go down that blind consumption rabbit hole that America so wants you going down all the time.
I mean, what I would rather. Yeah, I was just thinking about that today. What can I do? Do I sit back and do nothing and just sit in my little box? I mean, I'd rather ride steadfast, sword drawn in my heart into a certain death than to sit back here one more minute and watch everyone in totally asleep at the wheel.
Yeah.
Because this is about evolving. To get your telomeres to open, to get your DNA to move to the seraphim angelic 24 rotational DNA. That's what it's really about right now. They want you to lower your frequency with eating meat, with watching things that are violent. Violence does something to your body in every form, right? The way that I had a beautiful group of women called me and she gave me a lecture on, she's like, look, I heard your podcast, but you should know women have the right to run around naked whenever they want, mister.
Yeah.
Right.
No, yeah,
I was so like, yeah, I was like, yeah, I hear you. I totally agree with you. Right. My point is like, that's the grab women have had to make to re-empower themselves in this like male tyranny world. And my point is like, there's a time and place for everything, like where are the kids when this is happening?
Well, and
And
also,
and the energy that the kids are feeling when this is going on, and what are you taking in and how are you rebroadcasting it from a spiritual conscious standpoint? I'm grateful for her because after we talked for a while and we worked it all out, we're like 3 days in and I'm like, dear friend, right off the bat.
Nice.
Yeah, you've been
You know
doing
what
a
I mean?
lot of work with people lately, especially, and some people specifically reaching out because of the podcast, right? You guys are getting in deep.
Yeah, there are a few people for sure showing up and being so upfront and so honest about what they have happening. And I'm so stoked to be that voice, to sit back and watch and passionately observe. And to be able to look at where someone is and still be love and still be appreciation, and then not go into the trauma and hook into it in those batteries we call the collective consciousness. It's an art form to remain neutral in the face of some of what I've heard as of recently, because I hear a lot. And Cash, you could probably tell I was wearing it earlier. I had to kind of like do a couple of things to come up out of it, where I'll be holding places. People fall through the cracks all the time. And that's what I'm saying to you. I'm like, reach out to me and just talk to me. And so I'm bridging this gap, especially with a few people that are like, oh, I feel like I'm burdening you. And I'm like, which part of I want to hear what the fuck is happening to you? You know what I mean? Like, and I'll just keep moving through it. And then I'll find that with some people and with women, they're like, well, I just feel like it's just too much and I don't want to do that and that. And I'm like, look, I want to know what's happening. And every time that occurs, it allows something people push away that they're not embracing to kind of come up. And then there'll be this national emotional outpouring. And there'll be this truth that'll come into space. And then with some of the guys that reached out, we're just like able to be like, hey, man, I love you, bro. Thank you.
Yeah.
I know what you're going through. The intense stuff throwing down, and if you're out there, thank you. It's an honor. Please do reach out. I'm serious about it because there's a lot of healing to be had. So yeah, there are for sure. And there's some that reached out through email looking to find out where they can get, access to some more of my information. And I'm finishing up Wellspring Eternal now. And I've got Daniel going through it. And when I'm done with it in a week, I'm going to send you a copy of it, Cass, so that you can do a read through. And I'd be honored to have you work with it. It's been quite a it's been quite a run for me, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you sent me also basically like how to disentangle and cut cords with maybe people you had heartbreak with or different things and traumatic events happen or whatever. And after we got in deep, like a couple days had passed and I like was kind of like in the darkness for a second, being like, I don't want to be here. And then I was like, oh shit, like having that thought that you're saying about, oh, am I burdening you? And I was like, oh, let me do the cord cutting ceremony to Gabriel. Like, let me pick up some of this load. And so I think that what's beautiful about what you're doing is you're not only you're teaching people how to fish is basically what how I feel about it because you're
Yeah.
so transparent about the work that you do and how you do it and what it feels like that when I talk to you, I feel that it's consensual, like how deep we go and where we go. And it's because I need to like let things out, but then also recognizing like, okay, I like Gabriel have the power to like help him dislodge maybe some of the stuff that we go through. Is that? Do you think that's
I,
fair?
you know, I do, and that's a great way of putting it. And can I just say that, I will just sit there and do whatever I need to allow you to step into that space because what you were sharing with me, Cass, I will never forget it
Mm-hmm.
ever. It's not that I ever forget anything, but it's the way you stepped into it and just owned it, and not only for you, but for anybody else that got pulled in or like patterned into that place, right? And
Yeah.
so you're right because and that's cool that you're able to go and see it from that directive because at any given time it's called holding space as opposed to like let me just lean on you forever and ever. And there's an art form to lining someone up and so they have a recognition of how they incur in those
Mm.
inverted patterns,
Mm.
and then they rally and then they see how they're going to wear all that consciousness going forward, because the more consciousness you wear, the more present you are, the more in your heart you are, and then the more you start triggering people that are in old patterns of consumption, and they'll
Mm-hmm.
look at you and be like, oh, you make me feel bad because you're different, and you just got to ride that out and let them be triggered. But you know what happens if you hold it real deep? All that shit drops and you get that raw, authentic part of them. And then that's when you get a chance to go in there and go hard with the love. Cause that's what I'll do it. Cause I don't know if you know, I sat there and just cried my eyes out and was listening to Whitney Houston for 3 solid hours after we had that conversation. I was like, we just got to work it out, you know? And so, and that's what I was wondering. I never know with the cord cutting stuff, because on my end, sometimes I'll be holding space in certain areas, right? And we're still kind of patterning down here together, but you took on that energetic, you quantified that energetic load, and now you're holding it, and now you're still integrating it. I can feel it right down here. But
Mm-hmm.
you look like salt, you look stable and lighter and well put together. And your fucking eyes even look bluer to me, man, after that.
Mm-hmm.
Real talk, it really does, man. You
Yeah.
went for it, and I'm just stoked to be a part of it. And I was gonna try to reach out to you yesterday, but I was a puddle of mud all day long yesterday. But I love the way, because that's the best way for me sometimes is and I have this conversation often, because sometimes it'll take 3 days of me sitting in that realm or in that morphic field wherever that happened, or in that groove, because you have these grooves that lead into those belief systems. And every time someone walked into a church, or every time a man hurt a woman, or any time there was an abuse that happened in any physical format, whether it's emotional abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, abuse is abuse. What men have had to do to yank and tear energy apart. There's a lot of yanking and tearing of consciousness happening. So to heal and integrate, to truly be spiritual, is to actually look at what happened to your soul and integrating the consciousness and all the other lifetimes. Yesterday had stuff happening. Someone was a bull and got
Mm.
slaughtered in like you've got stuff with animals in other lifetimes. It all is stacked
Whoa.
up.
Oh
Okay.
yeah. I've been thinking about that. Like, what were we in other lifetimes, and how do we relate that to like having more compassion for how someone maybe is dominating in this lifetime, whether that's a pattern that they've experienced in the past where they were like higher in the food chain or lower in the food chain, and then how do they
This
kind of
is their
take that in?
moment to be
This
an
is
apex predator.
yeah. Yeah, who knows? I mean, I
Well, we
guess you
live on
can
a
tap into
predatory
it.
planet. We're being fattened up. Okay, look around you, right?
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Why do you fatten up something for? Before you take a hog to the, what do you do to
Slaughter,
it?
yeah, you
Yeah.
can.
Think
Yeah.
about that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think people are thinking about that. You know, there are predators that you can't see in a spectrum. You know, there's just so much going on. And when I really got underneath all of it, and you can ask Daniel today because he texted me because he's processing some really hardcore stuff after what we touched yesterday, and he saw it all real clear as day, and I felt it. And he, you know what he did? He erased all of his shit on iCloud. He gave away all of his clothes. Right? He's like just sitting there with his piano, this little light of mine, and I'm like rock and roll.
Yeah.
Right
You know,
on, man.
he went hard for it. And I'm so stoked and I'm so proud of the kid. If you're out there, brother, I love you. Thank you.
He's
Because
out
we went
there.
down there and did that shit. And you know, he texted me today. He was like, he said in this quote, I don't know how you do this, man. Like, how do you do this? Like, how do you see all this and see the people that you love sitting in this stuff asleep at the wheel or being indoctrinated and then, you know, not lose it? You know, I told him, I was like, well, Daniel, I spent a lot of time crying. I spent a lot of time with dear friends, like moments like this. I spent a lot of time writing, doing artwork, creating. I spent a lot of time being hope in the middle of something in a pocket that's very dark. And then on occasions, like listening to people talk about what they've been through in a roundabout way often helps as well, right? So, I mean, I just felt like I should mention that because when you really go for it, when you jump off that cliff, like that poem that I sent you,
Yeah.
you know, I wrote that for a beautiful young lady that reached out to me, and I felt and I felt her on the pinnacle, right? And had let go of everything in her regular life and living in a van down by a river for real, starving artist. If you need something beautiful painted on the side of your house and anywhere, let me know and I'll send her your way. You know, you give her $1,000, it's worth every penny. So, and I felt that come through, and I was like, I'm on this cliff called life. Right. And if everyone is like jumping this way and they're in this little normal shallow pocket, you guys are rare. And you know, right, with Sean, you're just like, let me take this and that, and then I'll eddy right off and kind of see where I land, where it's flowing like water. Right. So that's why I was like, I was stoked for that to come through.
But you know what? That grew out of, for me at least, that grew out of kind of a fuck it attitude. You know, I know we were knocking that before, but like, I don't know. I was kind of
How do we deal with that? It's the most terrible rampant poison on this planet.
Oh,
What do we do?
I know. You know what it made me do? It made me like binge out on like traditional success, and like I made a bunch of money, and I got noticed in a bunch of ways for making movies, and that all burned out. Like once I had it, I realized like that wasn't really it, and like this is it. Like finding this, and with Cass, that's what it is, and so this is what I devote myself to now. And then we together kind of do that thing where we go over the cliff. We're fucking.
I feel like we're very similar and like addicted to like the raw truth that it gets exposed, like the stuff that you're talking about, when someone kind of like sheds something personal or maybe like some system that's narrative that's running, and they can kind of like bring it to the light, and then you kind of like settle into like a moment that's more present together. Like it's Is that a drug? Like, are we getting off on that? Because
there's a gradation where you take a dive into something and you can't see the bottom. And oftentimes, if you supercharge it with fuck it, and then you throw a bunch of drugs in it, you can get pulled into there's a lower astral realm in 5D. The higher 5D is what you feel when the Holy Spirit gets rolling in an Alabama church. You know, they get all like that. Now the opposite of that is when you go down into the lower astral, and that's where the nasty is sitting there waiting. But the issue is when you go to sleep at night and you rise up out of your body and go closer to source, which everybody does, you have to go through that astral layer. And a lot of people get hung up in there and get caught up in there. So you got to be really careful. And this is why you have someone singing Icaros and a shaman leading you when you do a festival. Or not a festival, but like when you do something with
like a
ayahuasca.
ceremony, yeah.
Yeah, someone holding space for you. If you guys wanted to go real deep, like I could belay you in, right? Make sure that you don't get pulled in. You go as far in as you wanted, but the more you go into spirit, the more you are not so much physical anymore.
Yeah.
And when we ascend, when we're going into more of a silica type matrix as opposed to carbon, here yet another reason to do vegan. The most important supplement I give to my plants is silica.
What's that
Silica
about?
you need for your, well, silica builds the fibrous walls in the plant, and silica in your body builds the actual framework that you need to hold water in your cells. How
Mm.
many people do you know that take a silica supplement? I do every single fucking day. Most people don't even know that exists. You don't get it
Silica.
from silica. Yeah, silica. So
Huh.
it's a form of water that's more of like crystalline, but carbon is more, it's thicker like diamond, and
Mm.
it can't, and it's more static in 3D.
Mm.
Like silica and crystal, you're embodying all five of those elements. And then as if the spirit and the soul is sitting there in that higher revolution, there from there, there's steps even above that. But the one that the path cutters are taking right now, and this is what I was telling someone, and he gave me permission to talk about his story, right?
Mm.
Things I wish I'd have known 10 years ago. This is genetic path cutting we're doing. It's
Mm.
evolution.
Mm.
I hadn't thought of spirit that way, that
Mm.
we're in bloodlines to do work through thousands of years of miasms and war and things that got patterned to keep us
Mm.
in that cap.
Mm.
There's a cap, and the
Mm.
things that happen in this world to keep people in that cap, and then there's a lot of other
Mm.
ones too. I wish I would have known that would help me understand, like, what's the reason to take that dive to leave society. Now you still gotta be in society and do your thing, but you can still be, a little bit here as opposed to down
Yeah.
here,
It's more
right
fun.
here.
That's more
Yeah,
fun because like you don't end up taking this as serious because I don't know if you're doing it right, you're probably getting good with the concept of dying and you're not super attached to, this form. So you play
yeah.
around and you take chances and you don't treat it so seriously. And I
It's
think
funny you
that
mentioned
helps you
that.
get into your heart space and pursue the things you love doing.
Mm.
I'm in the realm
Yeah,
right now, dog.
yeah.
Yeah, you
No,
got me
next
in the
time you guys
realm.
come through, man. Well, yeah, I need a warehouse to produce much more of her. She needs
Yeah.
space to go. Like, you guys got the seeds too, right? You get those seeds planted and get them outside. You'll see that strain go.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Ba, ba, ba,
let me know if you
da.
have the space. I can come up there and help you out with irrigation and pest control. And best
Mm.
case scenario is it needs a warm, humid environment, right? So you have to build some type of overclosure. My dream, I think, is what needs to happen is we're going to have to develop zones where people are working with the land and then working with production of food and production of plant resources, and
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't.
without the hippy dippy whatever, but you're going to see this pull away from technology and the ownership and rent paying, and
Yeah.
like someone's going to have to rally and be like, okay, where are we going to do this, and how
Yeah.
are we going to manifest this, which is where I'm, like, what I'm trying to do now. And then looking at like my space, which is bigger than most people's compared to probably what you have, in New York, right? And
West Virginia should probably be producing cannabis for many states. You know.
oh, yeah, it's perfect here. The humidity is right. It's right as rain here. It
Mm.
is, for sure. There's just an LED light spectrum that if you hit the plant with it at the right rate, like the trichomes develop. But my thing is, I don't baby the plant and I don't do foliar feeding. I don't spray water on the leaves. Like, I make her go hard and develop more trichomes by stressing her out, making her, I don't, you know what I mean? But that's my parenting technique too. Like, my job as a parent is to get my kid ready to go out there. And we live in a world full of sharks. So why
Yeah,
would you
dude.
send your kid out there like just a guppy with no, like, without being able to growl back, man?
Totally. Yeah,
Right? And it's not that I don't love my kids. I just like, look, you're gonna have to.
that's an intimidating balance to try to take on, like being a parent and being
Yeah.
like, I want to fuck you up just the right amount, you know?
There you go. Yeah. There, see, she did it to me again. You see that?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's what we love about her,
I
don't we,
know.
Shot?
Yeah.
Shot. We fuck you up just enough so that you got a rough edge, but you're still in your heart and you're able to. I'd love to see the world get to the place where the kids could be in a rotation of not having to worry about war and death.
Mm.
That'd be nice. It hasn't happened in I don't know. How many years has it been since we haven't been at war? Crazy.
Since Atlantis destroyed Lemuria and took away the intuition and the knowing from the goddesses on this plane. And now and now our females, our women, our goddesses are having to watch their backs. They're having to just take it. If you've heard that term before, I've heard my kids say it. Like what they've had to do to make a place in the world, you know, is it's nothing short of tragic. And then when I talk to two women that want to come out of the patterns that have been like down in the shit, but you know, you're talking to someone who just threw down for 3 straight days with one of the nastiest demons I've ever ran into. And the only thing that got me through it was my will to love her and to love the world and the love that I share with you guys. It's probably what you don't know, what I don't say publicly, but maybe I should, man. Because when I'm down in there and it's just you in the darkness, all you have is like your heart and your will. And those things are my fallen brethren. Because all those fallen angels are angels in the shadows, in the darkness. And in this world, if you go in there and you look to smite and you can't fight war with war, you go down in there with love. That's what you have. It's love, man. So that's what it's been like for me. And that's what I was carrying on my soul when you reached out to me. And I was like, I don't know if I could do this talk today. I'm like, I at least I'll charge into war. That's what I just texted Daniel before you guys like reached out to me. I was like, at least I will charge into certain death with my pink sword drawn. I'd rather die with honor than to sit back and do nothing and watch this world get taken over by whatever as the plague that seems to be taking over.
Well, you're definitely helping the people that we've talked to and who have told us they reach out to you. They're like, this is
Have you heard from them? Because what they've been saying to me is like, it has sustained me in a way I never thought. Because you never know until you rock something. And I've spent 10 years working through these patterns.
Yeah.
And I'll move through it in an hour. And then I'll watch all that structure fall apart. And then I'll watch them get into something. And then they'll get a phone call from their grandfather 5 minutes after we get off the phone. And like, what just happened, right?
Right. Yeah, that happened to Carrie. Like,
well, I mean, you could watch our last podcast. It happened in real time.
Well,
you opened up a portal just by like honing in on her energy about 3 past lovers that were all Sagittarius. Scorpio. and she started getting text messages and
right off the bat, didn't she?
Yeah, and then what was really beautiful is after we got off the podcast that you followed up with her saying like basically like don't get on the phone with this guy.
No,
because he was trying to like get on the phone.
Yeah, pull her in.
Yeah.
Even if it is to apologize or whatever, there's a little bit of like needing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what's really special about what's going on and the work that you're doing, and is that you're really helping. I mean, for myself, like lightening a load, and lightening a burden. But gosh, I hope it's not for you to then take on that burden.
I had this. You hold the patterns on your body and work them through on your frame. If you've integrated that consciousness and you see someone getting ready to jump into a war pattern or a collective pattern or whatever it might be, or abuse, or then the family patterns too are nasty. Like I've been working on this project with the Vatican, and there's a Catholic church in France that has some maze built in it, and it's all very Gothic and pagan. Like the stuff that I get into where I'm integrating now, it's very old and it's very rich. And I'm going back in there to reclaim that, not just for me, but everybody else. But it depends on how deep the pattern is. It depends on how long someone's been into it. You've been doing a lot of work to catalyze to get into that moment, to have the opportunity to speak your truth to someone that legit cares,
Excuse me.
Because I care. And people I think people can tell, it's not like, oh, I'm getting paid to sit and listen to you, psychologists, your drugs, right? Let me I care. And when you do that, people will show up with their stuff. And that's why I will take the moment to be like, hey, give me a shout, send me an email, 304-400-9824, anytime, day or night. The most mundane thing, whatever it might be, man. I love you. Like, you're not alone, man. Please. I can't sit here another day in this world and there not be something out there where someone can reach out and be like, I'm feeling the love, bro. Yeah. I had this kid from Florida reach out and he's like, you know what he said to me? Bryce, if you're out there, I love you, bro. Deep, gnarly. He's like, man, the salt water just flows in my eyes. It was very like the salt water just finds the deepest part of the ocean, right?
Mm.
down there in that deep part. And when you're down there, it's an honor, right? And that's like when someone shows up and they're willing to even talk about it. Most times people get disempowered off their center, off their core.
Mm.
And then so you'll have to sit in there where all those things live, where their monsters live, where their thought forms live, where their parents didn't show up for them, however they got indoctrinated into academia or organized religion. You
Mm.
know, so I think going forward there needs to be like a morphic field where someone can access whatever their truth is, and
That's what
that's
the
what it should
realm
look
is.
like. Yeah,
That, you know,
yeah,
and in the realm, you know, there's tons of guys like you. You're a butterfly in that realm, you know. You're all over the place, and you could
yeah.
land on someone's shoulder and whisper some wisdom, and it's all good. And it's like the green pasture within all the darkness that currently surrounds us, and we're carving it out currently. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that's what this is, and like we're showing that there really are no rules, and like the amount of trauma and healing that needs to go on, like it can't be done in this dimension. It requires people like you to be a bridge, to go a little further out and take people with you, and enter the shadow realm and fucking slay demons for 3 days straight. You know.
And not everybody has that in their bloodline. This was one particular one that
Yeah.
involved something that matched my something in my family line also. I just have gotten into alignment with it enough to where it's real for me, and it'll show up at night and it doesn't like that I'm taking away its snack pack.
Mm.
Because that's a lot of women get into these inversions and they get into whatever it might be, and things latch onto them,
Hmm.
and then they'll use their family against them to keep them in there, like they're bullies, they're kidnappers, they're scoundrels, if you've heard
Hmm.
that
Mm.
word. They're
Yeah.
soulless scoundrels,
Whoa.
and they need just the more light we bring through, the more we can be something bigger than just that negative I, right? Like I need this, I yes to want it all.
Mhm.
I'm like I yes to, like, okay, that's cool and everything, but I don't think that fancy Honda and all that gas is going to get me any closer to what I'm really made from,
Mm.
whatever that is, the prima material,
Mm.
you know. And I was seeing something earlier under the full moon. Something's going on. Something sacred was stolen, and a lot of us down here are working to get back to that sacredness. And that's why I'm just kind of like, all right, how can we rally? Because I need more people to be integrated to go in there and help me. Because I got to go in there today and do something, and it's me and my little black candle that my buddy William made for me, and my dog, which can't hold any more death energy for me than what she already has, and my house, which is chuck full to the brim with magic, right? So
Mm.
like, I need people to step up,
Well,
Mm.
to just be love.
is that it? How do you?
Yeah, you'll know when you're integrated fully. Like what you're integrating and moving through, or is orienting down here in your gut and your abdomen. And as you keep moving forward and you integrate here and you move up monadically to these 2 points behind your ear and then 4 inches over your head, and you access these higher octaves above your head, then you'll pull completely out of a lot of the patterning that keeps people in 10D. Like there's
Mm.
the 10 tree Kabbalah tree that ties in with the tarot deck, that ties in with the Kabbalah, and it's all the same thing. It all leads into a very Tothian inversion. Anything that says Yahweh on it, the Solomon amulets, all that stuff is portals into dark worlds. Even the 5-pointed pentagram leads into weird places. Like, you don't need a pentagram to embody the elements. You are all of them. It's a matter of opening your cordage, which is
Mm.
your DNA. And that's what I'm able to do at this point. I'm like, if we just sit and chill for long enough, your body wants to come into alignment with the light.
Yeah.
That is the realm.
Mhm.
I just walked through and I just gave up, man. I was like, I can't live like this anymore. And I was like, done, dead. I'm out. I'm gone. Because the
Mm.
way your soul exists in ego, part of you is dead, and you're chasing your tail. Nine maluri poni ni ya stu kurachitini ni moadi ni le ai ton katara chanta idrea in ma urur ni mi ufre tola Irina Maria tu Christi Tinglon du Shutu to free the soul. So
Mm,
there's the girl out there that just needed that right there. This was an honor to code that in because
mm,
it's just being and it's just being so your soul can express itself. And there's just all this soul shattering like news and all this. And I'm like, we just need to sit and be love and be camaraderie, you know? And as much as I need a group of ragtag warriors to hold space, I mean, I'm walking right up to the gates of Mordor, which will eat you, real talk.
mm.
I can't bring people in there that um there's just a very distinct thing that things need to look like. But I'm feeling the people show up that are ready for the work. And I can always tell because I'll go right into this gear that's more of like, I'm all light and love here, but right down in here, it's kind of like, who are you really in here? Let's talk about the perversions. Let's talk about the issues. Let's talk about, what do you care about? What are you holding on to? And what do you want to be? What matters to you? My thing is like, look at where you're special. Oh, so special. Daniel went through so much. His birthday's coming up, and he saw something I already went through. My last birthday, you'd be so surprised. You're like, oh, I'm going to go out for dinner. I'm going to have a cake, and people are going to care about me today. I sat there and didn't do shit. I just sat and looked at the fact that why do I think I'm special, right? It was really intense. You'd be surprised the programming around it. And like he's facing that down, and I'm showing him that pattern. And he was like, oh, my God, it's bullshit and diabetes. I'm like, yeah, big plate of eggy sugary stuff. Because my point is like, you're special every day.
Right.
You should celebrate your life every day.
Yeah.
Every day. Right. And you should love like that all the time, without a doubt. And with whatever you're doing, whether it's like you got a piece of magic tin metal you got in the mail, which is my new favorite thing I got in the mail today, or whatever with your dog, or if you're working with the plant medicine.
That's why we're not married and we don't have anniversaries or anything like that, because it really kind of forces our hand to kind of constantly be courting each other in like a kind of a cool way. Like, we're always trying to be better to each other. There is no agreement with the government that we have to stay together or anything like that. You know?
If you knew what you were walking into with marriage and the ownership and the agreement you're going into in the courthouse when you put that ring on your finger, you've done the right thing. It's ownership.
Yeah.
It really is. But that's really sweet of you to look at it that way, because she is quite a catch.
Oh my God, totally. I met Cass and I was just like, this is it,
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad. Like there's so much underwriting, like you're saying, with that plant, like what goes into it that we populated. It probably feels the same with like these institutions like marriage. Like you kind of, it takes something from you, but you probably also give something to it. I would hope.
Oh, you absolutely do. Yeah. Anytime that you observe something, or anytime that it's a groove, the word marriage. So if you can understand morphic fields and quantum resonance, the way your electrons and protons come together within this plane of physicality, like you are occupying matter because energy is doing this. The thing that tells all of that how to be and how to act is consciousness. End of conversation. And consciousness is the seat, is the vehicle that allows the soul to express itself. And when you loosen your soul by saying, oh, there's something out there bigger than me externalized, like this God in this box or this dude hanging on an addition sign, right? Or the institution of building a house and building a marriage with the love of my life. My thing is like, we should love everybody like that. Right? How hard is that? Even the cows. You don't think these animals are going to evolve and rally and generate some type of poison or tell Mother Earth
Well, that's what
we've been doing to them?
coronavirus is, right? Like, you know what I mean? That happened because of us getting into overstretching our industry into natural environments, and Mother Nature is fighting back. And now we got birds visiting humans in cages and deer visiting humans in cages and being like, what's going on? Where are you guys at?
Yeah, zoos are hard. If you're even somewhat put together, zoos can be difficult to go in. I went to one, and this gorilla, I couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bust his ass out 007 style,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
why we got to do the work.
Empty the zoos.
They should empty them. They should. But then I know a beautiful horse trainer that does equestrian stuff in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I told her, I was like, why don't we just let all the horses out? And she's like, well, because they get ran over by cars.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, makes sense, right? And then my thing is like, well, let's just get rid of the cars. What good are they really doing you anyway? You're just driving away from one thing to the next. And so you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to sit and focus on any one thing. And then, I saw a study where when you're messing with your phone and you're messing with Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, you're messing with your frame ability, your ability to
Mm.
focus for long periods of times.
Yes.
So, like to read or to really produce something that's deep and enduring and timeless, right? Like whether you're carving marble or you're doing something like Renaissance period level, without the TV and the clicking and the clacking, and it reprograms and repatterns your mind. And people aren't thinking about this when they're Twitter instant all the time. But I love the tool, but like any other tool, if you use it too much, you're going to strip a screw out, right? Like if you torque it too
Yeah.
much, if you use
Mm-hmm.
it too much, the tool's a tool. Like a paintbrush is nothing until it's in the master's hand, right?
Yeah, all that stuff it's overstimulating us, and it's like frying out. It feels like it's frying out certain circuits to me, and it's
Well, what are we going to
fragmenting our
do?
attention, you know?
Like, what are we going to do, man? Like, I'm looking at people that know where they need to go, and I certainly I'm ready to throw down.
Yeah.
What are we going to do with that? What's the next step? Like, how do we get people in a safe environment where they can actually go in and look at how they occur in spirit and don't have to worry about how am I going to even make the $9 to buy food that I don't even know is organic or not, to
Right.
even get clean water and to feel safe at night. You be those three binary focuses of protection: to eat, sleep, procreation. Those three needs have to be met first before you look at spirit. My God, it took me 3 years to work through that with my guides. And I'm
Yeah.
like, are you hungry? Eat. Are you tired? Sleep. Are you horny? Tell your body that you'll try to deal with that. And I'm trying to deal with that right now. Well,
Well, what if
Breathe.
like
what
we're
do you think?
here and we've eaten and we've slept and whatever, not procreating right now, but I think we're satisfied. And maybe some people who are listening are. Is there like a way to enter this moment collectively together, like the people who are listening and sharing this time with us, and maybe scrolling through Instagram or on their phone at this time, but maybe they could take a moment and put their phone down and we could share some sort of moment together.
Sure. Yeah. I'll be happy to do that.
Let's drop
Let me put
into the
my
realm.
drop in. That's exactly it, right? And you have to feel through your heart what's happening in your gut, because everything you manifest with happens in your liver, kidney, spleen triad.
Hmm.
The way that you're digesting fear and food, everything that's happening in your genitalia, right? Most people are very loud and they're broadcasting patterns that are stuck in there. So when you first start to like move into like moving that more of that yogic space, or like get out of that mental complex and get more into like what's the physical complex do, and like in every cell is communicating with the other cells, and then knowing where you may not have good communication,
Hmm.
but I'd be happy to walk you through something here since I figure out what's happening with MFA here.
Okay.
Do you
You
think?
She,
good?
she needs attention.
Oof,
Arr.
she's salty. She needs a boy dog. Let me get her outside because she's
Yeah, do you
1
think?
second. Take a
Cool.
moment.
Let's take a moment. I'm a pee.
Drop into your heart. I'll be right
Drop
back.
into your heart.
Come on, Baboose. Let's
Catch
go.
your breath.
I know. There's cats and squirrels, everything out there. Let's get it. Yeah. John, man, you're looking like I'm keeping an eye on you, man, and I know I see what you're going through, and like I'm just keeping an eye from
Thanks,
the
man.
distance, man. Like
Yeah.
you've moved through, and there's a lot of implants that have gotten popped out, and there's something happening behind your left shoulder here too. That's a J-seal implant that you're ready to kind of move through. Thank you for the way you've been holding it
Thank you,
right through
brother.
here. This
Thank
stuff
you.
right here. Once we got this out of your abdomen and this out of the right side of your heart, like if you're ready to let go of it, it's just worth mentioning. Yeah, Это сейчас on the down though. That's a bit better.
Oh, sh.
Something kind of folded back in and through.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, sh.
You know what I wanted to say is, you know, I was asking my gods like what I should talk about, and they're like, you know, all the stuff where you're vulnerable and like what really happens during the day, and like the massive degree of like vulnerability and like all the love in the world. And from my perspective, if you could see it from my perspective and like what's happened and how hurt people are, I just felt like I needed to show a bit of vulnerability, you know, because I love you, man.
I love you, dog.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You just sit and you are with it. You don't have to be anything or say anything or do anything. And it's so beautiful to me.
Thanks, man.
And I hear so much day in and day out from so many people that are so hurt and have brothers stuck in Christianity following the false light, and spiritual teachers that are out there with a technique or a form or something they're trying to sell you. Or I just want to throw you in the deep end and show you how to swim, you know?
Yeah,
That's
man.
it.
Yeah.
But that unhooked a little bit. And then I saw something came out, but then there was something in your nadial complex. There's this nadial complex in the back of your heart and between your shoulder blades that leads up to these fuses behind your ears. Yeah, and there's this etheric wiring that comes down and plugs into people, and we just kind of burn some of that stuff out. Yeah, see how that flow will come down, and then that's what you have to do to clean up how that rolls in, because there'll be holes that come in through your astral body. Your ethereal body is what you're creating, having life, being alive, and blood running through your veins makes this astral body, and with the etheric body, and in that is your emotional body. So if you're always stilted and you're unable to express yourself, which is why I was like, okay, I'm just gonna have to cry this thing out, or like I'm gonna lose it, you know. You can only sit in a house, you know, bawling, because what I was doing, it was sitting here and my soul is calling out to your soul.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah.
Mine is firmly seated within my crystal breastplate right here in my heart. It's the embodiment of Ra. I still see it and in Jah, man, you know? Jah, brother. Just spirits, love. It's truth, man.
Fucking
You know,
right.
Bob Marley, whatever Bob Marley and Ziggy and all them were, you know what I mean? Good friends, good food, and good ganja, you know, and that's what the Rastafarian is really about. For whatever I've been feeling that come through, you know?
Fuck yeah, man.
Well, that's how it rolls through. Because then and that potentizes. There's a lot of stuff that's not authentic, and there's a lot of tools that people are using to try to talk to something, and they feel something, and it looks like God, and it's dressed like God, and it looks bright and shiny. If it's too bright and shiny, it's probably too bright and shiny is my whole thing.
They're giving
like,
their power away.
Yeah,
they're giving it away.
Yeah, you fill up a football stadium with people, and I promise you,
Yeah.
I would just sit right there, and I don't have to say shit. I just have to sit and be.
Yeah.
I don't have to say anything. That's what we just did, right? And the beauty of morphic resonance outside of the realm that we've been working on creating. Anybody feeling into what we just did, that little 5-minute meditation, I've cleared through 300 people's things in that moment. You guys just sat and held the circuit.
Yeah.
But tell me what you felt like on your end, because I know you're real clairvoyant and you're real empathic, and you've turned a lot of it off, man. I know you have. You're just so watery, and you're always in flow. And then you come static in certain moments, and thank God for this beautiful earth and goddess holding you down with her hypnotizing blue eyes.
She keeps me grounded.
Yeah, you know?
Oh, fuck, I think the plumber's here. Like, I think it's really symbolic, you know? That's how it felt.
Well,
what you were just asking me, it felt like I got snaked. Because I was holding, like, this mysterious pain here. And I was like, what the fuck is this? So, like, I stopped
Tune into it.
smoking for a little bit, and I was like, that really wasn't it. And then I was just trying all these things, and I was like, I don't know why this wasn't going away. And then I kind of just really caught my breath during a meditation the other day, and it started to lift.
I tune into it, and let's move some energy down into it, and I'll bring in a higher octave. You gotta go all the way up here to open that. It's ancestral. It's also has to do with where you're very sensitive and something happened in elementary school.
Mm.
Yeah. And then I'll find out which tonality we need to open it, because it's sitting on a horizontal plane and it needs to be verticalized. That and there, right? This stuff, there it is.
Mm. I'm very sensitive.
Well, that's the thing. Also, is like it's a moving through that. You're just gonna have to be, because your heart is kind of went like that, right?
Yeah.
That's a little bit. That's a little bit better. Yeah.
Yeah, this plumber's here.
The plumber.
Yeah.
Why does that just seem right to me?
That's so great.
Well, yeah, we have an issue with sourdough and.
Well, I think we're about to find out if that is the issue. Do you want to see?
Yeah, man.
Do you want to? This is very
it's like
fitting.
it's like New York plumber Serengeti.
Yeah. Can you see? Wait, what? Wait, I'm gonna turn it. Whoa, shit! I gotta fuck. Well, this isn't easy to do, but I'm gonna show you.
Figure it out, man. It probably just needs snaked out. You get people stuff from upstairs draining or whatever.
No, we're
and
on
like,
the top floor. We
are you on the top?
Yeah, we are the people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could be coffee grinds, or you never know. Carrie could have poured some potion matrix. If you get even one bit of coconut oil down the drain, that's it.
Oh, dude, I guarantee you that's what's about to come out of here. Plus plus something to do with this fucking sourdough. I don't want.
Well, it's all very esoteric in terms of like flushing, right? Let's say if you want, we'll sit here, we'll flush through a little bit more of whatever that is. That can't be. Yeah.
Freaky deaky, man.
This thing behind your left shoulder interests me though, because I saw these. What I saw was intriguing, man. Wondering what your experience is. Yeah. You tune into it and tell me what it feels now. Like now. Like the more description I can get from people, yeah. It's something back behind you, and you have to pull it back up from behind you and into the here and now.
Mm-hmm.
And when I opened up that seal, just forget about all of it, man. It's just me and you.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
You know? You track so much information looking for a place to nestle into. And I would know, man. I'm like that too. I'm just real watery. That's why the waterworks will just come on. And
oh yeah, yeah, for me too.
Just take a minute and feel into it, man. Mm-hmm. Well, open this up on una edición like a Oh yeah, I recognize that. I'll hold that open. Reach in there and just look around for you. I just saw you tune into it. What do you feel or see in there? I bet you probably feel.
Yeah.
You know, like what do you see in there?
Just a little tightness about the uncertainty about future stuff. I think that's where I think that's where I carry that. You know.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, here in West Virginia, there's not a lot happening, but there in New York, kind of like anything could happen, man.
Yeah.
You know, because like, what if this is the jab? Let's say if you're a boxer, there's a 1, 2, 3. My kid's been teaching me this, and the first one is the jab is to take someone off their center.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the jab is. And if you watch Evander Holyfield, like he times that jab right, and the moment jab and you get shocked, then someone will come in with that right hook, and if you connect there, and if you miss there, yeah, they'll come up with the undercut.
Yeah.
And COVID is the jab.
Okay. Whoa.
When you think about it like that, 1, 2, 3, man. No, weaken people, get them pinned against each other. We're now blaming China for this. This newsflash. This got released in China. It was here.
Yeah.
They own the garbage system.
Yeah.
Right? They own the waste system, waste disposal management. The way they spread this pathogen around, it didn't come from ever whatever type.
We want to blame. We want to otherize. We want to criminalize. It's really sad tendencies, and it's really sad when this thing gets used as an excuse to double down on xenophobia and to watch people rot in that weird layer of consciousness that's conspiracy theory, to see them not really want to transcend that or figure out how to rise above it. Strange.
I've thought about that because I touched in on conspiracy theory stuff, but we were talking about the meat thing last time, and look at it now, right? That seems like conspiracy theory to you?
No.
They are. How do you think all those people got sick at the Tyson meat plant?
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I think the animals have a pathogen that gets released when it interacts with the human microbiome. I feel as if it's a microbiome xenophobic virus that gets kicked on because it's got technology embedded in it that's beyond the scope of most people's comprehensible, observable viewpoint, because we live in a world full of people asleep that have, most of the people have an IQ of 85, and they can't quantify the fact that there is nanite technology, and you can layer a fungus in a virus with a toxin carrier, and then when it interfaces with a certain microbiome component, then the virus will begin to attach to whatever you tell it to attach to. So if you grew it on a human egg from all the aborted, they just still aborted eggs, right? And then they still spinal fluid from children, and then they craft up their little crafty craftness. It's like craft hour for the dark side. The Sith Lords are incredibly intelligent. If you want to talk Star Wars,
I mean,
so
I haven't kept up
in
with
terms
it.
of what I think is really happening in terms of this is a multi-phase, outpouring. And I'm going to send you to a no vaccination clause, a good one that I got, because they're going to want to say, you can't go to the grocery store, go here if you haven't gotten your vaccine and tested. That's what scares me the most about this. And people are like, well, we better just go get that. No, because the RNA in that vaccine is preparatory for something that's going to be the right hook. They're going to introduce something else, and then that's going to mix in with what they've already introduced, the irritant on an irritant.
Oh, dude.
I mean, you asked me, man, and
I know.
you could call it conspiracy, but I just want you to really think about what you see happening out there. And everyone's like, oh, we're going to open everything up, and we have this 6-foot social distancing, man. The real agenda here, real talk, is to introduce robots and make them commonplace. Robots that at the drop of a hat could snap your neck and enslave you. Right. So everyone's like, oh, and it's hooked into your Amazon, whatever, and it can go to the store for you, and it can get food for you.
Or snake out the sink.
Unplumb your shit, no problem, right? And you're like, hey, whatever, and then pay in credits, but your credits won't work unless you have the chip in your arm that certifies that you are free of the disease when they open up the leprosy camps, when people get whatever, the second right hook is a pathogen that's going to make you hungry to eat flesh of all sorts, including but not limited to your fellow human being. It's not going to be enough to just have pigs and chickens, man. So you add that on top. That's the right hook.
Damn.
And the gut punch is like, here's the fucking robots that can't be killed unless you have these. And there's a company I found that make these magnetic projectile guns. They're in a beta working version of it right now. They're like $1,000 a piece. And I'm talking to them about getting one mounted on a turret in my front yard, and me and my neighbor, and he's full on soldier. And we're like, yeah, we need choke points and we need EMF blast array points, and we need maglev guns. And I'm like, well, all right, bro, let's do it. I need $1 million. Let's do the damn thing.
Whoa.
But without getting any, that you want to talk, okay, you could call that conspiracy. You can call it what you want. But what if I told you that I have information from the timeline that we're on? The higher in frequency you go, the further in the future you go.
Mm-hmm.
You with me? The higher your frequency is, the more you are not in your observable plane of this time, and you're moving forward, right? And I went so far forward, way more forward than I wish I would have gone, right? And when I came back here and I saw that, and they're like, let's talk about how they're going to introduce robots to help with the social distancing. Social distancing is the first part. And I know people aren't thinking about the implications of robots, but I assure you, they got them sitting there waiting for you, and they're hooked up to Amazon. And I'm already seeing droids hovering over people saying, please honor the 6-foot distance protocol. You don't think it's going to be a matter of time until they have devices that can render you impotent or unconscious? They can EMP you. You've got a nervous system that goes, zzz. I could design it right now. And I don't have an engineering degree, but I have a mind that thinks like that. And I just want to know, and the reason why I'm mentioning this, if the more of us do our spiritual work, we can 100 monkey the thing, and we can leave that potential timeline, and we don't have to experience all that. But if I need to hunker down and wait for all that to bowl over, because the bad guys, you don't underestimate the dark side. They're gonna, when they go out, they're gonna take out everybody they can with them, and they want us eating each other in that death culture. And the next step in that is like, let's mess with the food supply.
Well, look, I mean, didn't Alex Jones just go on a rant the other day about how he was going to eat his neighbors? And he's psyched about it.
They are pumping that into the airwaves too, and that's getting into a much different conspiracy theory. And I'd be happy to get into that, but it would need to be with a group of people that want to hear it, and then they would need to sign something and pay me, and I talk about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to hear about that.
see, Sean, this is what I'm talking about. That's the fuck it. It's way over most people's pay grade, but we just had that conversation, and whoever needed to hear that, So the 1, 2, 3, right?
Yeah.
If the 1 and the 2 and the 3 doesn't make it happen, but is it that far out of the scope of imagination for them? They're going to introduce robots, right?
Oh, yeah. It's happening.
Sex bots, Amazon bots. The person driving your bus.
You can fuck your food delivery robot.
For an extra fee.
Cass, I like her style, right? I get food and fucked, the double F. I love it.
Did our drain get unclogged?
They said it's 20 feet deep clogged. Like that he needs a long ass snake.
I knew you need a 100-foot snake. I knew it.
Yeah, so
most snakes are 25 feet. The 100-foot one that's on an auger, that motherfucker weighs a lot. You got to drag it up the steps. I've had to use those before.
Luckily, we have an elevator.
So
but
what's happening?
I don't know. It's kind of funny that this all happened at this time. And it's all feels very synchronistic that our sink is clogged right now. So.
Yeah.
It's
because we just had a real ass talk while you were in there unclogging the sink. I don't know if you know, but it got real, and then it got gnarly, and then it went supernova. And I kind of was like, I've been thinking about it, and I want that really to not transpire. But if we talk about it, it makes it so it's not secret anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. I count on you guys to take it to a real place. Awesome secrets.
I want to talk to people about what I've been told and what I see coming forward, and I can feel right now they're wanting me not to talk about it. I can feel the interference coming in right then and there. So I'm glad we got it recorded. I'm like, what are you going to do now? Come after me more than what they already do? Because they do.
Hopefully
at nighttime, can you help me understand in my world at nighttime, sometimes I'll have really dark things be attracted to my light. And it happened last night, and it scared the fuck out of me. Bad. Oh yeah. And I'll try to go into my mind and quantify it, but then I'll go into my heart, and then it can't mess with that. But it's taken me years to get that much light in my heart. And I want to mention it because I needed to talk about it because it's scary to me. But I'm wondering what you guys do. Do you feel anything bearing down on you that way? Like, talk to me about, because it's ascension symptoms. You're going to run into interference. These things don't want us talking about this.
Yeah.
They don't want you integrating monadically at a soul level, because then the jig is up. People will see your light when they're asleep, and they'll stop eating animals, and they'll stop taking pharma, and they'll stop beating each other up, and they'll start doing weird, lewd sexual deviant activities and stop raping our women. You know, game is up. Learn to love.
Mm.
I mean, do you have anything like that ever happens, or
Our
because Cass,
sink
I know
gets
you're going through a
clogged.
lot.
Yeah, I'm working, but I feel equipped, you know. I feel equipped to show up and also just like not attached to being completely clear. I know you don't like that word because it sounds like
Scientology.
Scientology, but I'm also at this place where I'm like, shit, like if there's some darkness that's part of who I am, like it's okay, you know? Like I appreciate I appreciate doing the work with you because I feel like it alleviates any sort of burden or any sort of programming where it like is taking over in unconscious ways. But I also am kind of at this place where I'm like very accepting of my human incarnation and kind of loving it.
You're
And
such a lover.
yeah, I mean, you gotta love the darkness. Like you can't like you said, like the only place that you can kind of burn that out is from the heart space. So
It's the darkest thing I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of dark things. It was like pure fear or something. But I like the way that I like the way you explained it. And my guides are telling me to like talk about it and model it because you're gonna run into that. Maybe it's my darkness from another lifetime, or maybe it's some part of me. Is that what you mean? Is that what you mean by? I mean, this felt like something that was legit wanting to get into my world. You know what I mean? Like shadow work in those shadow blood
I
realms.
don't think it's coming from us. At least I hope not. You know?
Oh no, definitely not. No, not from you. I would know. This is something really old and really archaic. You know, because it's something I was doing with another person. Sometimes I'll clear something and something will show up and be like, you know, F you. Right.
Yeah,
And
no,
that's
I
what last
bet.
night felt like. And that's what I wanted to ask again, right? Like how do you hold a burden? That's what I really want to ask. That's what I'm really struggling with. Because not only do I hold my own burdens, and Sean, thank you for letting me talk to that about you. And, you know, I've been holding that burden in my soul for a long time now, you know, a long time now. And for me to talk about it, and it's okay. You don't have to believe me. You just look into the pretty light. We'll erase you.
I
Done.
Yeah.
believe you.
But I mean, how do you deal with a burden?
Well,
Because
do you
Cass,
have to
I know
hold
for a
it?
fact. Well, well, that's the thing, right? Because I know when we
Can it
talk,
just
I
like
felt you
be
holding a
there and
burden.
like you don't hold it? It's just there and you're not like like holding is just like even the term the semantics of holding something feels like you when you're holding it you can feel the weight of it. And if it's just there and present, maybe it isn't that you're supposed to hold it. I don't know.
Well, how would that equate to like if you're holding space because it's if you see where someone else is holding a burden and you go underneath of it and you sit there for however long it takes, right? And then you'll be feeling the heaviness of whatever that is and then neutral to whatever that drama is without getting pulled into it.
Mhm.
Because oftentimes, and then that's what I was about to go into, like once you drop into your heart and look directly underneath of you, that's where the integration happens.
Right.
It's always like good 10, 15, 20 feet underneath of you. And most people slip into that if they get into the right headspace or they get the right substances in their reality, or like it would like, you need to come topo me the fuck up again. And then you guys like keep an eye on me or whatever, put ponytails in my hair and time, you know, whatever. So I can ride my ass down in there again,
I
you
like
know?
how you call it belaying. That's great.
Yeah. I was talking to a rock climber from Denver today, and I was like, "I'll belay you in." I'm like, "You like, I got to go right to the edge, and I got to trust the person that's got me tied off."
Yeah.
Yo, I lost my trust in you for a second after we last talked because I was just like feeling some darkness and I was like, yo, this motherfucker wants my darkness. He's feeding on my darkness. Like, what the fuck? You know? And then, like, I realized that I'm creating a fear narrative through that and, like, to extricate myself from that. And then also, like, be at peace. Like, if you get off on the darkness, like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, it's not something to resist or fear or I don't know. It was just a kind of a funny moment because I know other people you've scared other people a little bit, you know, like what kind of portals are we opening and that sort of thing. And especially when you're going in and through some
Oh,
darkness
I
that maybe
bet.
people don't want to feel and you're the
Yeah.
person who's giving them the space to go into that darkness, it can feel very like dude,
Yeah.
like, do you want this from me? Like, why do you want this? Now I'm suspicious of you. Like, try not to, and then it's like, oh, okay, but like, I wanted this. I don't know why.
It's kind of like the DMT, you know, like someone will beg for it and we'll give it to them. And every now and then they'll come out like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
You know, and it's
Yeah,
like, "Don't look at me like that." You know what I mean?
Like,
Like
you wanted it. I don't
you
know.
wanted, I was just bringing you there. I was
Like,
helping.
I gave you a platter of options and you fucking jumped on it, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what I get when I talk to you is like you open up the platter and what I hear is me, not you. You know what I mean? Because you
Yeah.
say a
Oh,
lot of
that's real
things.
important to me. No, I know, man, and I ride that fine line because part of my job is to transpose some of that the heaviness in that darkness so that you can embody it and wear it and turn it into light.
Mm-hmm.
The darkness it gets transposed into light, just like those fallen demons that are angels. They get transferred into light. They're down there creating those shadows in this darkness, and most people have only ever known that heaviness from their bloodline or the way that their shadow self is very consumptive. And I have like done so much of that gnarly shadow work. Oftentimes I'll mirror forward when I'm with someone and I'm just Scorpio enough to where let's root out the perversions and let's talk about whatever might have happened, and then you get to look at whatever that heaviness is for you. But I would not be. I've had entities and shit tell people all the time stuff about me. Like
Mm,
I've heard all kinds of stories, you know.
mm.
So I'm appreciate you mentioning it and talking about it to me, because the last fucking thing that I want in the world lingering around me is any more heavy fucking darkness.
Mm.
Because the more light you hold, the more you're going to attract the things in the darkness that need help from you. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when you're in that's when you're really in it. When you're just sitting there and you have something showed up that most people are running from when they're all namaste and light and love. And you're like, how do I get something in that lower astral form to transpose itself? Because for what it's worth, Cass, since we talked last, there's an aspect of you right down in here that I've been keeping an eye on for you for a
Mm.
minute now. It's worth mentioning, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of what down in that area, so it'd be worth next time around, whenever you're ready to integrate that form, like I just put a little post-it note on it. And then my job is just like, what's getting in the way, what thought forms or what heaviness or what. And that's why it's important to talk about whatever it is that you're feeling, because what you're mentioning there is called a twilight master. When
Mm.
someone has a lot of dark in their body and they're attracting a lot of light, and there's a lot of that out there, and those people are very asleep in the astral realm. And you can talk to me about anything, reach out to me, whatever, you know. I'm not in this to make friends or have some type of fucking cult following or something. I can't stand those people.
That's
And
what
that's why I
we're
put
doing.
out that video. I was like, unfollow me,
I
follow
love
yourself,
that,
right?
dude. That was
I'm like, come
great.
on, man. Wasn't it? I know, right? That one came through and I was like, I'm digging that one, man. That was good.
That one
I was
was
like, what do
really
I got to
good.
do?
Yeah, you should make
So,
that a shirt. Unfollow me.
oh, no, yeah, you're right. I should. I
That
could
would
use
be
help with
really
all that.
good. Yeah, that would be really good. You could probably fucking, you know, when I first met you, I was like, the ad world would kill for a mind like yours. You know, like
Oh, yeah.
they would fucking love a guy like you.
Yeah, I've had some Coca-Cola commercials and some other ones in my head for a long time that are just so epically good, man. But
I
for
bet.
me, you know, because I'm a
Yeah.
pretty proficient rapper as well. I was laying some of it down for Daniel. He was like, "This is fire," but I can't feed it. I can't feed into old systems, and
No, no,
I can't get paid a lot to get someone to go eat a Dorito or drink a Pepsi. If it was the
Oof.
right thing,
no.
I'd be all for it, man.
There's
You
no
know?
ads
But
in the
yeah,
realm. There's no ad agencies.
um,
There's no sugary products. You know, you don't need that.
probably some mirrors so you can see you.
Ooh, it's all
If you
mirrors.
see you,
Mm,
then you're gonna see others.
yeah.
Mm.
Like if you see you amongst others, then what's left after that? Whatever you're embodying through your ego,
Yeah, right.
you know, and your ego is your ego of a volition wherein you are wanting to be of service. I love you enough, Cass, to show up in that gnarly fucking darkness, because I had to actually
Yeah.
wear it, feel it, experience, and cry hard with it
Hmm.
for a while. So part of what you were feeling was me transposing it and then moving it out of that realm that it was in, and then getting it to come up so that you could recognize it. And then now you've like pulled it in and integrated it and are like ready to go in there to clear the rest, like other people out of there now, once you finish up with what you're moving through now.
Yeah, one of
So
the
if we're like, that's for real being of service, where you let go, you jump off the cliff, you embody the most terrible thing that happened to you where you're wounded into it. And some people took on that wounding to work through it. And then from there, you'll look out and you'll see all these other people in there, and you'll not know how to have a conversation with them. But when you do, they'll like, well, you're stealing something from me. It's quite the contrary, freeing you from something that you probably didn't even know was lingering outside. You know how awkward it is for me to see people lingering in there and not be able to talk to them about it. This is why I'm like, whatever we're doing here with this is beautiful, and it's needed. Oh yeah, you got the tourmaline. That black piece of tourmaline's been through the shit with me. I like what it's doing there though.
And I also
nice.
Yeah, it's charging up.
One of the craziest things I just want to mention is that when we were talking the other day on the phone, I literally felt like someone else was seeing through my eyes. You know, like a distant, old, past lifetime.
Some being John Malkovich shit.
Centuries ago, person was looking through my eyes and being like, oh, wow, like, this is how you're living. Like, this is what your pants look like. And then also just kind of like, and then I was also tapping into the experiences that they had. And God, it's just so crazy because hearing this I sound ridiculous, but it was real to me, man. You know, it was real to me.
Yeah. No, some of what you're mentioning is some of how things occur. Like I'll feel and see that with people. We were there was a melding that happened.
Yeah.
At that layer.
Were you like?
Because
Sorry, it just feels
like. Oh yeah.
Go
ahead, please do share. It helps.
It feels like we're healing for some like past lifetime stuff. You know, like that's part of our work here is to like, whether it's our ancestors or whatever it is to clear that space so we can, like you're saying, just be, you know, and be the love that we want to be, and clear those old patterns that are running the show that we don't maybe consciously have a hold of.
Yeah. And if you're out there and you're feeling that around me, there's a reason for that. And I just wanted to take a moment and own that. It's the things I've done in other lifetimes. And, you know, if I have ever done anything to hurt anyone, and there's no excuse for it, whether it was mind swiping or for the church or being a Roman or being a Mayan shaman priest cutting hearts out of people or being a pharaoh in Egypt, whatever it might have been, my soul has been through so much. And if I'm able to come full circle and to work through some of that and integrate some of that, then I'm all for it. Please, if you're feeling disdain or anger or whatever with me, then even more of a reason, pick up the phone and call me, and I'll be happy to have that conversation with you. You wouldn't be the first one, you know. So
right on.
We all have those lifetimes, and if someone is for real about doing spiritual work, they'll be able to come real like that and admit that they are not perfect individual. If you have someone that's trying to teach you and walk you through stuff, and they never can admit that they're wrong, and they're always attempting to prove their point, or if they're unable to say, hey, I've been a fallible person and we've all had lifetimes where we've hurt people, killed people, abandoned people. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I'm not ready to look at those. Yeah.
That was one you just looked at right there. That one seems intense. Once you do this, the deeper interpersonal stuff, then the other lifetimes will start to come into alignment, and you get to look at them. And that's been happening to me. I had someone reach out to me and kept calling me Julian, and every time I look at that lifetime, I just start like full on crying, and I felt like I was burned at the stake. And every time she says it to me, it's like I've missed her, whatever happened to me. You know what I mean? So even now, I'll have, and sometimes we just forget like what's happened to us. We've lived so many lifetimes, and then now we get to go through, purge through all of that, and then move through a cycle to be able to use forgiveness, because that's the key. That's forgiveness, because that opens everything up.
They say forgiveness is the key to every door. You know, right?
Well said.
Yeah. Well, I didn't say it. Some Grateful Dead lyricist said it. Unbroken Chain.
You know, I had an Aunt Kelly that wrote a book on the dead and followed them around in her Volkswagen bus, and she's actually had them. You know, she wrote a book on them, and they signed off on it. My Aunt Kelly Dionne.
Wow,
cool.
Really?
Back in the day. Oh yeah, and she told me the story when I went down to visit her, and I know that you guys are into the dead. Before she got into politics, she's now like the ambassador to Vietnam for the government or whatever.
Oh
cool.
Wow.
So she went full on. She had her moment, you know. Like there's a searching that's part of this.
Oh yeah.
However, that searching moves, and then where you get to, and then there's that moment where I was like, okay, I had that experience with that searching, with that thing, whatever it is, a substance or a teacher
Mm.
or a book. Well, you know, it
Mhm.
could be a Bible, it could be anything. It's all just a stepping stone. And you know, and the ability to put that thing down and walk forward into your own truth, which is why I really like the way that you framed it up, Cass. Is, you know, I can't sit down and hold shit for forever for anyone, and
Mm.
you just picked it up, and we just went in there and talked about it, and so you were able to look at it, you
Mm.
know, and it was beautiful, and it was raw, and it was gentle, and you saw a little bit through my eyes because you just described to me what I feel to a T, and then
Mm.
I'll go in and see the beauty that is you outside of anything that might be discouraging you from knowing love.
Mm. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate your honesty. It's weird when after it happens and it sometimes it can feel disempowering to leave those patterns, and you'd be like,
Yeah.
what that fucking guy just do to me, man?
Because you
Like, why do I
identify
feel so
with
strange?
it. You're
You do.
identifying with whatever means your ego used to tamp down the horrible feelings that came along with those things that are coming up. And you start to
Yeah.
identify. You think that's you. And you mourn that person for a second. You might get cranky about it. You might get suspicious of the acid or the Gabriel or whatever the fuck got you there. You know, some shaman, this podcast, whatever.
Mm.
But it's all good.
It's all
True.
good.
Because you know what, underneath all of it, I do this to be of service. I just want to be normal and have friends and chill and smoke with you guys.
Oh,
Oh,
I
yeah.
just want to be a normal dude. And then sometimes I'll get people like, I did a healing in the back of the grocery store with 3 people. And then the dynamic is forever like, what's up with that dude? Where did we go?
Right.
And I'm like, I just want to come over and chill and have tacos with you guys, you know, maybe
Play
smell
cards, maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, little stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's just when you're really underneath all those patterns, you're like, what can you do?
Mm.
It's difficult for me. It really truly is.
Well, I like that you keep showing up for it, because what you described to me about what happened in the back of that grocery store does feel like magic. And as much as they needed to meet you, you needed to meet them, and that portal needed to
Yeah.
be open, and that, you know, sacred new pattern needed to be put in that grocery store for maybe future people to walk through that grocery store. I mean, like, I love that we just don't know. We just try to do right by each other and by ourselves,
Yeah.
and create that light and love pattern that you so champion. And like, keep doing the work, because it's such a joy to be in connection with you, and to feel how much you've already affected and impacted the people that you've reached through this podcast, and the people that I know you reach through your travels and on the physical and astral plane.
Yeah, oh yeah. I spend a lot of time, like in certain astral places, cleaning stuff up. People get sucked into there. Oh my god, it's just really intense. But no, thank you. I like the way you think about that.
Yeah,
'Cause
man.
yeah.
We love it. We love you. And yeah, I'm going to smoke one for you and we'll close this fucker down.
A little closing ceremony.
Yeah, this is the closing
Let's do it.
ceremony. Maybe you'll even want a twist.
Yeah, I'll take a twist.
Is that the proper nomenclature for taking a draw off a bong? Twist.
It is for us now.
It is in right in this moment, in this realm. Oh, nice. I go for those.
All right, I'm glad you're enjoying the flower
It's incredible, man.
and honoring it.
It's helping me
beautiful.
decode you and feel you, and you're here with us. And
Yeah, cool.
we'll do this again soon, man. Thanks, brother.
Thank you, Gabriel. We love you.
Yeah,
Peace
I
and
love
love.
you too, man. I appreciate it.